I'm just glad she's not a lesbian. The only thing that mattered was whether or not I was having sex and if I was pregnant. Sorry, Ted Cruz, because those bitches are blocked. $500, it's $500. Ugly crime. But basically, Marco Rubio almost got me kicked out of my parents' house. Did your parents ever ruin any big moments in your life or really big achievements? Because mine did. All of the time, and I have a lot of stories to share with you today. Hi, I'm Damaris, and I'm so grateful that you're here today. I am going to walk you through some of the positive things that have happened in my life that my parents ultimately ruined. My childhood wasn't the greatest. I was raised by a brainwashing, abusive narcissist, and I hope that this video can inspire you to not let your parents ruin any of the big moments in your life ever again, because you know what? It's just not acceptable, you know? These people need to learn that everything is not about them. One of the first big moments that I remember my parents ruining was when I was either in like first or second grade, and my elementary school picked me to sing this song, Don't Sit Under the Apple Tree, for this big like dinner event. I can't remember what it was for exactly, but I do remember going to rehearsals after school with my dad because it was so exciting. I was going to be singing with this jazz band. So the day of the performance, you know, I'm really excited and I'm at school doing kid things, and all of a sudden a teacher pulls me out of class. They told me that my dad was taking me out of the show, so I was supposed to go on the bus to go home instead of going with my school. So I was really sad. I spent a lot of time learning that song, and all of my friends and teachers knew about it. I figured maybe there was some good explanation when I came home, and my dad is pissed because he learns that Senator Harry Reid from Nevada, my home state, is going to be attending this event, and how dare the school system not inform him of his attendance. My father is a hardcore conservative Republican, and no child of his was ever going to be singing for that evil Democrat. So the obvious choice to him was to pull out his small child out of this really cool event last minute. I was not going to serenade Senator Harry Reid among the other hundreds of people attending this same event. It was like my crackhead father thought there was going to be some beaming, shining light on Senator Reid, and he would use me singing at this event for his own political gain. Duh. And this would not be the last time that politics would make my life a literal hell. Getting a guitar for the first time sounds really cool, right? Like really exciting to a kid. Wrong. All I wanted when I was a kid was a guitar because my father played guitar and I wanted to be just like him. So I get this acoustic guitar for Christmas and I'm thinking, this is it. I'm on my way to stardom. My father starts trying to teach me how to play guitar, and it's really fucking hard. I had baby hands with no strength, and it was so hard to, like, it hurt my fingers to put them on the string. In the first week, he's screaming at me, telling me that the guitar isn't that hard. I'm an idiot, I just need to practice harder, that I should have never gotten the guitar in the first place. Then he grabs my little sister and starts trying to teach her how to play guitar while I am ugly crying. And he's pushing down her little fingers as hard as he can so she can play an A chord on the guitar. See, your little sister can do it. You're so pathetic. It's not that hard. And in my head, I'm like, you're forcing her to play the guitar. She's not doing it. Anyways, kind of crazy. I still play guitar in a rock band, mind you. Here is me on my very first prom night with my very first like real boyfriend. I was terrified to tell my parents that I was dating someone. My whole life they told me that I should never get a boyfriend and I need to focus on my studies. But I didn't want to lie to them or go behind their back because it felt wrong. So I thought, you know, after prom, it might be a good idea to tell them. My prom date and I are standing in our kitchen while I'm telling my family, and my mother's reaction was so angry that she had to go into the other room. But my father's reaction was a little bit interesting. The first thing that came out of his mouth was, I'm just glad she's not a lesbian. At the time, I was so relieved that my father wasn't like furious and screaming at me that I had a boyfriend, but it never really sat right with me when he said, well, I'm just glad she's not a lesbian. Because throughout my whole relationship, my dad was telling me that my boyfriend was going to beat me up one day because he was a tall athlete and that's just how aggressive those kinds of people are, which was so far from the truth. But it seemed my father would prefer I date a man who beat me up rather than being a lesbian. I don't know, I'm bisexual, so joke's on him. My senior year of high school, I had won a scholarship through my school, and there was a senior awards night that they wanted me to attend because it was this big thing because the school had never created a scholarship for their students before. They had printed out this big giant check. It was like $500, which isn't a lot in terms of scholarships, but $500 is $500, and I used that for books and things, and I was very grateful. During the night of the ceremony, my sister also had some school events, so my dad had already decided that he didn't want to take me, that it was too much of a hassle to also drive me to my high school that was 10 minutes away. Mind you, this man didn't work, didn't clean, didn't provide any income. All he had to do was take us to and from school, take my mother to work. What a hard life, what a hard job. Anyways, I had a lot of teachers and friends tell me that I had to be at the award ceremony that night, and I couldn't attend, and I had no idea that this little ceremony part was happening for me because I didn't know I had won the scholarship. I told my father people really wanted me to come, and he said he didn't care because I had already gotten accepted into UNLV, so what was the point of the awards night? I don't know. My parents never helped me out financially with college. They didn't help me with scholarships. They didn't help me apply to school. I had to figure that shit out all on my own, and it was really stressful. Yet my family wholeheartedly believes that they put me through college because we were so poor, I was able to get financial aid. And if it wasn't for their poorness, I would have never gotten any scholarships or had gone to college in the first place. So I guess my parents just chose to live in poverty so that their kids could go to college. I should thank my parents, not the government. My parents, they did it all. And I shouldn't even credit myself either. It's not like, I got really good grades, applied to scholarships, worked a part-time job, and supported myself throughout college. Okay. This one, I was debating on whether or not to share, but I will because I think it's important to talk about because I really had no control over this situation. So the first time I ever voted was completely ruined by my father. So I hate saying this, but when I was 18, I was a registered Republican because when I went to sign up, my dad was with me, so I basically didn't have a choice to be in any other party. If I had picked Democrat or independent or nonpartisan, he would have wrung my neck. Anyway, so the first time I voted was in 2016 during the Republican primary, and my mother and father and I went to go vote together. There was no discussion with my family on who I was supposed to vote for, and I really didn't want to vote for anybody, but at the time, I thought Marco Rubio was kind of the least crazy candidate. So I vote for the dude. You get this paper ballot. So my mother and father and my votes, we give it to the lady, and we're watching her put these tickets in piles. So the 2 votes for Ted Cruz was killer go into one pile, and my vote for Marco Rubio goes into a separate pile. So my dad sees that I voted against him, and he's like, oh, I didn't know you were gonna vote for Rubio. And I'm like, yeah, that's who I wanted to vote for. He's going on and on and on about how I should have discussed my vote with him, and that I may have potentially ruined Ted Cruz's chance to be the nominated Republican candidate. Hilarious, I know, it was all me. Sorry, Ted Cruz. At this point, I am so fucking angry that I am in trouble for this. I never argued with my father much because that was never a good idea, but I had turned 18 and it was my God-given American right to vote for who I wanted to because this is a free country. I didn't drive, I didn't see my friends, I barely left my house, and my only freedom was to vote for who I wanted. And apparently that was taken away. So we're arguing at home and he calls me a degenerate and how dare I vote for Marco Rubio without his permission. What a mistake it is. I'm such a stupid idiot. And I'm just arguing back like, this is my American right to vote for who I want. You can't tell me. So much back and forth, and he's so angry that I'm fighting back. And I'm crying. Ugly crying my eyeballs out because that's really all I could do at this point. He then starts grabbing me and tells me that I need to leave the house, and my mother is protesting. She's being all frantic and she's like, well, I'll move out with you. I'll move out with you. And in my head, I'm like, yeah, good idea, Mom. Just leave your other 2 kids with your abuser. Awesome. Great parenting skills. Great choices these people make. But looking back, I really wish I had like moved out in that moment because I had stayed there, I guess like 6 more months before I officially got kicked out by my parents. And that could have been 6 months where I would have been enjoying my life. But basically, Marco Rubio almost got me kicked out of my parents' house. My dad also ruined my high school graduation. Surprise, surprise! I don't even remember why he got mad at me, but I do remember him like screaming in the car, and I start crying and hyperventilating, and I have so much anxiety. Like I didn't know where to put it or take it or leave it. It was just not a good time. So my makeup looks kind of busted, and I'm trying to wear sunglasses as much as possible because I don't want people to see my, puffy eyes. It was supposed to be a day to celebrate me graduating high school. And even while I was like walking up and getting my diploma, I was just like so terrified of what it was going to be like when I went home because I was so afraid of my father. He just had to make my graduation about him so that everybody catered to him and tried to avoid pushing his buttons. So my dad kicked me out of their house the summer before my sophomore year of college, and for the first couple years, I tried my hardest to maintain some kind of friendship, relationship with them, but as you can imagine, it was quite difficult. I invited them to a show that I was playing with my band, and I hadn't seen my dad in a few months because I was obviously trying to avoid as much interaction with him as possible. So he comes into the restaurant and he's all jolly and happy, acting like, there's nothing bad between us, and he kisses me. And I hate getting kissed by him. It's always made me uncomfortable. And the first thing out of his mouth was that I was wearing too much makeup and that I looked chubby. And hearing that obviously pissed me off because my whole life my parents have been joking around and calling me chubby, constantly comparing me to my little sister who was taller than me and her body was a little bit different. And I had struggled with like extreme body dysmorphia forever. And it's like he knew that comment was going to ruin my whole night, and it would send me into like this spiral of like, oh my God, I'm so fat, my body's ugly, I'm ugly, and it was just so shitty. And when the show was over, my dad had like nothing nice to say. He was just saying that I was screaming and that I was ruining my voice. My mother also texted me later and said that I looked really chubby, and then asked me if I was pregnant. Did anyone else's parents just obsess over your sex life and constantly ask you if you were pregnant? Because I feel like my mother asked me if I was pregnant like every single month. It's just like so infuriating because it didn't matter what I accomplished, if I graduated college, if I had this band, if I had a really good job, if I was doing well for myself. The only thing that mattered was whether or not I was having sex and if I was pregnant. I learned my lesson to never invite my parents to my shows ever again, or really invite them to anything, because those bitches are blocked. If you have any similar stories, I would love to hear about it in the comments. We need to rally together with these awful, terrible parents we have. I hope that your parents are no longer ruining the big moments in your life. And if they are, I hope that this inspires you to make them stop. Limit contact or cut contact, because the hurt that they cause is just never worth it. It's been pretty much 5 years since I've cut out contact with my parents, and it is one of the best decisions that I've made for myself because I truly live a life of peace. No one is screaming at me. Nobody is judging me. Nobody is making me feel like shit constantly. When I was writing out what I wanted to say for this video, I had this like sudden wave of sadness come over me. I just had so many memories that I have completely blocked out come up, and I just felt so sad for my younger self. She didn't, or I didn't deserve any of that. I didn't deserve to be screamed at for hours on end. I didn't deserve to cry my eyes out constantly. I didn't deserve to be abused, pushed around, or psychologically brainwashed and traumatized. So if that wave of sadness or anger ever comes over you, I just want to remind you to be kinder to yourself. It's okay to feel these things, even after years of therapy, after you've come to terms with everything, after you've tried everything to kind of undo the harm that they've caused. Just let the wave happen and embrace it, because at the end of the day, if you don't let them hold power over you, they won't have the power. They don't deserve to take up any more space than they already have. I had to rework feeling my feelings because my whole life my father told me that my feelings and emotions weren't real. So growing up, I was just so angry and sad and needed help, and I didn't know why, because I was just trying to turn off everything. I have come a very long way, and I'm very proud of myself and the life that I've built without my parents. This is the happiest I have ever been, and it's only gonna get better from here. Thank you so much for being here and watching this video. If you enjoyed my stories and want to hear more, you should subscribe. I'm really grateful that you're here, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.